There is a wooden plank bolted to the side of a cliff in China. It is 30 centimeters wide. The drop below it is 2,000 meters. For most of its history, the monks who used it had no safety harness. They considered the risk part of the practice. You went across or you did not go. That plank is still there. It is now one of the most visited hiking routes in the world. China is the third largest country on Earth. A significant portion of it looks like this, like a planet still being assembled. There is a peak here so sacred that 17 climbers died on its slopes. And the local communities asked that it never be climbed again. It hasn't been. And the plank walk is not the most extreme place in this film. Welcome to Earth Unseen. These are 15 mountain worlds in China that should not exist. This is why they do. More than 3,000 quartz sandstone pillars rise from the subtropical forest of Hunan province, many of them exceeding 200 meters, some approaching 1,100. They are the result of 300 to 400 million years of erosion, water, ice, plant roots, and tectonic pressure, slowly removing the softer rock around harder sandstone cores until what remained were these vertical columns, standing in isolation above deep ravines covered in subtropical vegetation that clings to every available surface. The tallest individual pillar, the Southern Sky Column, officially renamed the Avatar Hallelujah Mountain in 2010, stands 1,080 meters tall. The landscape formed incredibly slowly, with water seeping into cracks in the rock and plant roots expanding these fractures over enormous timescales. On misty mornings, the clouds settle at mid-pillar height and the tops appear to float. Detached from the earth, suspended above white air. This is not a camera effect. This is what the place looks like. The Bailong elevator at 326 meters is the world's tallest outdoor lift, transporting visitors to the top in less than 2 minutes. The glass bridge that spans Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon is 430 meters long and 300 meters above the canyon floor, the longest and highest pedestrian glass bridge in the world. The glass panels are designed to crack visibly under pressure, not to reassure visitors, but because the cracking is superficial and the structural layers beneath remain intact. The park's management decided that people needed to see the glass respond to their weight to believe it would hold. Zhangjiajie's glass bridge panels crack visibly under your feet by design. to prove the layers beneath are holding. Would you walk it? Comment. Yes, no, or only with my eyes closed. And if you haven't subscribed to Earth Unseen yet, now is a good time. We publish a new journey every week. Mount Hua is one of China's 5 great mountains, a Taoist sacred site for more than 2,000 years. Its 5 peaks reach a maximum height of 2,154 meters. What makes it globally famous is not the altitude, it is the plank walk, a path along the outer face of a vertical cliff, where hikers must traverse a 30-centimeter wide wooden board built along the side of a sheer drop, with only iron chains bolted into the rock as handholds. The first trails date back more than 1,000 years, carved directly into the mountain's cliffs. Originally reserved for Taoist practitioners who accepted extreme risk as part of their spiritual journey. For most of that history, there were no harnesses, no safety equipment of any kind. The monks who made this approach did so on the understanding that the mountain would determine the outcome. Today, safety harnesses are mandatory on the plank walk section. Many visitors advance with their backs pressed against the rock, avoiding looking down to keep fear at bay. Some freeze midway, others turn back trembling. The Chess Pavilion, a small Taoist temple accessible only via the plank walk, has been occupied by monks continuously for centuries. They got there the same way everyone else does. The monks who first carved the Mount Hua Trail accepted the risk of death as part of the spiritual practice. There were no safety harnesses for most of its history. Do you think physical danger can be part of a genuine spiritual experience? Or is that a story people tell themselves? Comment below. Tianmen Mountain rises 1,518 meters above Zhangjiajie city. And near its summit, there is a natural arch cut through the rock face, 36 meters high, 45 meters wide. A hole in the mountain large enough for an aircraft to fly through, which one did in 2006. When a Russian stunt pilot navigated an S-class aerobatic plane through the opening to mark a Chinese aviation event. The arch is called Tianmen, Heaven's Gate. The local name for the opening existed for centuries before any aircraft existed to test the claim. Access to the summit involves the world's longest cable car at 7.5 kilometers, ascending from the city through cloud and forest. At the top, a glass skywalk runs along the outer face of a cliff edge at the mountain's rim. A transparent path suspended above a drop of several hundred meters, the valley floor visible through the floor of the walkway at every step. A winding road of 99 bends, known as the Avenue of Heaven, descends the mountain face in switchbacks. that are visible from the cable car as a series of hairpin curves cut into sheer rock. The road is not a shortcut, it is a specific number. 99 curves corresponding to the Chinese character for forever. The Leshan giant Buddha stands 71 meters tall, carved directly into a cliff face at the confluence of the Min, Dadu and Qingyi rivers in Sichuan province. Construction began in 713 CE during the Tang dynasty and was completed in 803, 90 years of work. Funded by a monk named Haitong, who believed that a figure of Maitreya Buddha at this river junction would calm the dangerous currents that were killing boatmen. According to historical accounts, when the authorities attempted to divert the construction funds, Haitong gouged out his own eyes to demonstrate his commitment to the project. The Buddha was completed after his death. It is the largest stone Buddha statue in the world. Its shoulders are 28 meters wide. Each ear is 7 meters long. 1,000 people can stand on its feet. The drainage system built into the statue during construction, channels hidden in the hair, behind the ears, in the clothing folds, has functioned without significant maintenance for more than 1,200 years, preventing the water damage that has destroyed comparable stone structures elsewhere. Whether or not the statue calmed the river, the excavated rock from its construction did fill in the riverbed enough to alter the local currents. The monk's intention and the engineering outcome may have been the same thing. The Leshan Buddha's drainage system was built in 713 CE and has required almost no maintenance in 1,300 years. Modern engineers study it as a model of passive water management. Which engineering feat in this video do you find most impressive? Tell us in the comments. The summit of Fanjingshan in Guizhou province splits into two vertical rock spires separated by a narrow gap. On each spire stands a Ming Dynasty temple built 500 years ago. Between them runs a stone bridge, narrow enough that two people cannot walk side by side, connecting two structures that appear, from below, to float above a permanent layer of cloud. The mountain rises through mist on more than 200 days each year. On those days, the temples are visible only from above, or not at all. 8,888 stone steps lead from the base to the summit. The number is precise and intentional. In Buddhist numerology, this count corresponds to the steps of spiritual purification. The climb is the practice. The temples at the top are confirmation that it worked. Pilgrims who complete the ascent have been doing so for centuries in all weather, on steps that become slick with moisture in the mist that defines this mountain for most of the year. The mountain is one of the 5 sacred Buddhist peaks of China. Its position, above the clouds, on a rock that splits as if uncertain which direction to grow, has been considered evidence of its sanctity for as long as people have been climbing it. Jiuzhaigou Valley in northern Sichuan contains over 100 lakes at various elevations connected by waterfalls and rivers. And the color of the water is not blue. It is not green. It ranges across turquoise, emerald, aquamarine, and a specific deep teal that has no common name in most languages, and that photographs consistently appear to have been digitally altered. The color comes from calcium carbonate dissolved in glacial meltwater, which refracts light differently at different depths and mineral concentrations. Each lake is a slightly different shade because each has a slightly different mineral composition. The valley floor is the result of glacial and tectonic activity, creating a stepped series of natural dams over which the water flows continuously. On August 8, 2017, a magnitude 7.0 earthquake struck the region, killing at least 25 people. The Nuorilang waterfall, the widest in China at 270 meters, dried up completely within hours as the earthquake destroyed the underground connections between the water systems feeding it. The lakes lost their characteristic color as sediment and debris entered the water. The valley was closed for 3 years. When it reopened in 2019, the Nuorilang waterfall had partially regenerated through natural processes. The water had found new pathways through the damaged rock. The colors of the lakes returned as the sediment settled. Jiuzhaigou restored itself on its own schedule without significant human intervention. In Yunnan province, approximately 120 kilometers from Kunming, a forest of limestone pillars rises from flat ground. The Shilinstone forest covers approximately 350 square kilometers, and the individual formations range from a few meters to more than 40 meters in height. Sharp, vertical, closely spaced columns of grey limestone that create a landscape resembling, at ground level, a dense forest made of rock. The formations are between 270 million and 300 million years old, produced by the dissolution of limestone in a shallow tropical sea that covered the region in the Permian period. Followed by tectonic uplift that raised the seafloor above the surface and exposed the eroded limestone pillars to further weathering. Walking through the stone forest at ground level is disorienting in a specific way. The pillars are tall enough to block all sight lines, close enough to create narrow corridors that turn unpredictably, and uniform enough in appearance that orientation is difficult without reference to the sky. The paths between them open suddenly into chambers, then narrow again. From above, the formations look like a dense grey carpet. From within, they feel like a maze designed by geology rather than by intention. The Sani people, an ethnic Yi subgroup indigenous to the region, have lived alongside the stone forest for generations and have their own named features within it. Pillars that resemble specific animals, figures, or characters from local legend. What geology produced, the Sani people organized into a readable landscape. along a 1-kilometer stretch of limestone cliff above the Yi River near Luoyang in Henan Province. More than 2,300 caves and niches have been cut into the rock, containing over 100,000 individual Buddha images. Carved over a period of approximately 400 years, beginning in 493 CE. The largest figure, the Vairocana Buddha in the Fengxian Temple Cave, stands 17 meters tall. Its face is 2 meters wide. It was commissioned by Empress Wu Zetian, the only woman to rule China in her own name, and according to historical records was partly modeled on her own features. An act of conflating political authority with divine representation that has no direct equivalent in any other world tradition. The carvings span 4 dynasties: Northern Wei, Sui, Tang and Song. And the stylistic changes across centuries are visible in the way the figures are rendered. The Northern Wei figures are elongated and abstract. The Tang figures naturalistic and detailed, reflecting the different cultural influences each dynasty absorbed. Many of the smaller figures were damaged or decapitated during periods of anti-Buddhist iconoclasm, or in the 20th century by collectors who removed heads and sold them to foreign museums. Some of those heads are now being identified in Western collections. The cliff face remains. The scale of what was originally carved there is still visible in the patterning of niches across the stone, even where the figures themselves are gone. The Yellow River, China's second longest river and the cradle of Chinese civilization, carries its name from the lowest soil of the Loess Plateau that colors it a distinctive ochre yellow throughout its middle course. At Hukou, in the gorge between Shanxi and Shaanxi provinces, the river performs a compression that has no parallel in Chinese hydrology. From a width of approximately 500 meters, it is forced through a gap of 20 to 30 meters, then plunges over a cliff as a waterfall 20 meters high. The result is a concentrated explosion of yellow water that looks, at full flood, less like a waterfall and more like a dam break in slow motion. The width changes seasonally, usually 30 meters wide, increasing to 50 meters during flood season. The color does not change. The Yellow River has been this color since before Chinese recorded history, because the Loess Plateau has been eroding into it since before Chinese recorded history. The image of Hukou Waterfall appeared on the Chinese 50 yuan banknote for years. A waterfall chosen to represent the nation on its currency because it is uniquely, irreducibly Chinese in both its geological character and its historical significance. The Yellow River is where Chinese civilization began. Hukou is where the river makes that claim most loudly. The Hukou waterfall turns yellow from the lowest silt of the same plateau that sustained Chinese civilization for millennia. What do you think is more remarkable, the geology or the 5,000-year human connection to this river? Tell us in the comments. The karst landscape of the Li River Valley in Guangxi Province appears on the Chinese 20 yuan banknote, a view of conical limestone peaks rising from the river floodplain. their reflections visible in the still water between them. The peaks are the product of tropical limestone dissolution over tens of millions of years. Rainfall, slightly acidic from dissolved carbon dioxide, dissolves the limestone from the surface downward, cutting deep grooves between harder rock masses and leaving isolated towers that rise vertically from flat ground. The result is a landscape that looks constructed rather than natural, symmetrical, ordered, almost architectural in its regularity. The Li River itself is 83 kilometers long and has been the primary mode of travel through this region for thousands of years. Cormorant fishing, a technique using trained birds with rings around their necks that prevent them from swallowing larger fish, has been practiced on the Li River for over 1,000 years and is still performed today at night on bamboo rafts with flaming torches that attract fish to the surface. The birds dive and return with fish. The fisherman removes the fish from the bird's throat. The ring is loosened periodically to allow the bird to swallow a fish as payment. The technique is ancient, precise, and requires a relationship between fisherman and bird that takes years to develop. Huangshan, Yellow Mountain, in Anhui Province is the single location most cited by Chinese landscape painters as their primary source. The tradition of Chinese landscape painting that dominated East Asian art for 1,000 years depicts a specific visual vocabulary: vertical granite peaks emerging from cloud, solitary pine trees growing from seemingly impossible positions on near vertical rock, mist-filling valleys between summits. Huangshan is where that vocabulary was formed. The mountain did not inspire the style. The style is a direct representation of what this specific mountain looks like on most days. The Sea of Clouds, a phenomenon where temperature inversions cause cloud to settle in the valleys between peaks while the summits remain clear, occurs at Huangshan approximately 200 days each year. The welcoming pine, a 300-year-old Huangshan pine growing horizontally from a granite cliff at 1,500 meters, has been painted, photographed, and engraved more times than any other single tree in China. It appears on the back of the Chinese 50 yuan traveler's check. It has its own official caretaker assigned to monitor its health. It is crooked because it grew toward the available light, spending 3 centuries bending away from the cliff and toward the open sky above the valley. In the far west of Tibet, at an elevation of approximately 3,800 meters near the town of Jada, a landscape exists that looks like the surface of another planet. The Jada Earth Forest is a formation of eroded clay and sediment pillars covering approximately 2,000 square kilometers. A vast field of earthen towers, ridges and columns produced by the erosion of lake sediments deposited when a large inland sea occupied this part of the Tibetan plateau between 2 and 3 million years ago. When the lake drained, the exposed sediment was carved by wind and water into the formations visible today. Pyramidal towers, layered ridges, deep gullies. The entire landscape striated in horizontal bands of ochre, rust, and grey that represent individual periods of sedimentation. The Jade Earth Forest is geologically recent by the standards of most of the locations in this film. The pillars are made of compressed lake sediment, not rock, and they are actively continuing to erode. The landscape is visibly different from decade to decade as new formations collapse and new erosion patterns emerge. Behind the formation, the snowy peaks of the Himalayan range provide a backdrop that places two completely different geological timescales in the same frame. Ancient ocean sediment being carved into temporary pillars in the foreground, and the ongoing collision of tectonic plates still building mountains in the background. Mount Eme in Sichuan. Province rises to 3,099 meters and is one of the 4 sacred Buddhist mountains of China. The golden summit, Jinding, at the top is accessible by cable car and hosts a large gilded Buddhist complex, including a 10-story statue of Samantabhadra on the back of 4 elephants, visible from a significant distance in clear weather. The summit is above the cloud line for much of the year, and the phenomenon that draws photographers specifically to Eme Shan is called the Brocken Spectre. A rare atmospheric effect in which a person standing on the summit with clouds below and sunlight behind them sees their own shadow projected onto the cloud layer, surrounded by a circular rainbow halo. The Brocken Spectre occurs at other mountains globally, but Eme Shan's specific orientation, cloud frequency and summit geometry make it one of the most reliable locations on Earth to observe it. Buddhist tradition at Eme Shan interpreted the phenomenon as a divine manifestation, the appearance of an individual's own enlightened nature projected in light. Whether or not that interpretation is accepted, the optics are precise. What the mountain shows you, when the conditions are right, is your own image at enormous scale, surrounded by a ring of colored light floating in the clouds. The mountain has been showing people this for as long as they have been standing at its summit. The Tiger Leaping Gorge in Yunnan Province is carved by the Yincha River, the upper Yangtze, through a section of terrain where the Hengduan Mountains meet the Tibetan Plateau. The depth of the gorge from the river surface to the summit of Jade Dragon Snow Mountain above it is approximately 3,790 meters, making it one of the deepest river gorges in the world. The river at the bottom is less than 30 meters wide in the narrowest section. The mountains on either side rise nearly 4 kilometers above it. The gorge takes its name from a rock in the middle of the river at its narrowest point, from which, according to local legend, a tiger escaped hunters by leaping across. A jump of approximately 25 meters over rapids that would be fatal to any human attempting the same. The legend is probably not literally true. The gorge geometry is precisely true. The high trail that runs along the gorge wall was used by local farmers and traders for centuries before it became a hiking route. Sections of it are cut into the cliff face at heights that make the river invisible below. Jade Dragon Snow Mountain at 5,596 meters is permanently snow-capped above the gorge. The same mountain that sends glacial meltwater into the river also towers above it. Tiger Leaping Gorge drops nearly 3,800 meters from the mountain summit to the river below, one of the deepest gorges on Earth. Have you ever stood somewhere so deep that the scale stopped making sense? Tell us in the comments. "3,000 sandstone pillars above the clouds of Hunan." 2 Ming Dynasty temples on a split rock in Guizhou, connected by a bridge above the cloud line. A plank walk 30 centimeters wide on a mountain that Taoists have been climbing for 2,000 years. A hole in a mountain large enough for an aircraft to fly through, called Heaven's Gate. A Buddha carved into a cliff in 71 years, whose drainage system still works 12 centuries later. A valley of turquoise lakes that dried up in an earthquake and restored their own color. A forest made of limestone 300 million years old. 1 kilometer of cliff covered in 100,000 carved figures. A yellow waterfall where a river 500 meters wide forces itself through a gap of 30. A river landscape so distinctive it appears on the national currency. A mountain whose appearance defined the visual language of Chinese painting for 1,000 years. 2 million years of compressed lake sediment carved into a temporary landscape still actively eroding. A summit where the atmosphere projects your own image in light, surrounded by a ring of color onto the clouds below you. One of the deepest gorges on Earth, carved by the Upper Yangtze between peaks that rise nearly 4 kilometers above it. And a mountain that could be climbed, but won't be. Not because of inability, because of a request and a decision to honor it. China is the 3rd largest country on Earth. These 15 locations occupy a fraction of it. The geology that produced them is still active. The Tibetan Plateau is still rising. The rivers are still cutting. The limestone is still dissolving. The Loess is still entering the Yellow River. What exists here now is not finished. It is a photograph of a process taken at this particular moment. In a country that has been watching these mountains form for longer than writing has existed to record it. Which of these 15 mountain worlds do you most want to see in person? And which one do you think is the most geologically extraordinary? Tell us in the comments. Share this with someone who thinks they know what China looks like. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Earth Unseen. We publish a new journey every week.